Bill Goldberg returns to the WWE next week on Monday Night Raw. The WWE World Champion loses a match to a jobber. More names have been added to the list of Jericho. The table is being set for Hell in the Cell and Survivor Series, and another WWE star has been suspended for 60 days. Let's talk about that. What is up? GoodMicWork back at you with episode 381. We've got a ton of stuff to get into tonight. What do you think of the new format? I figured I would tweak things up or change things just a bit. I had teased that a little bit of my format was going to change as far as my weekly commentaries go. I now have 4 different intros that I'm going to alternate the use of, and I'm also going to do rotating pictures on the screen instead of just the one big still image collage type of deal like I've been doing basically since I started commentaries. I figured I would change the images on the screen to reflect what I'm talking about throughout the commentary, so if you wanted to, you could technically watch this thing. You might also see a few other things or bits of information on the screen throughout the duration of my commentaries as well from now on. So at the end of the day, production-wise, this isn't going to take me any longer to do it this way. And I think it gives the commentaries a little bit more polished of a look. So I hope you like it. As far as what we're going to get into tonight, you heard it in the intro. There's a bunch of shit to talk about, so let's jump right into Raw first. Now, I'm pretty much going to talk about everything on the show because I did not do a Raw review or a SmackDown review last week, so I feel like I need to catch up and discuss where everybody on the roster is currently and what they're doing and what their feuds are looking like and all of that. So we will talk about everything as far as Raw. However, I'm not going to go in order. Let's start with the big news first. And when I say big news, I mean very big news. And I don't mean Goldberg. I mean Sasha Banks. How about that, huh? Last week on the Monday Night Raw that I missed because I was moving, she main events the show with Charlotte for the WWE Women's title and wins it back again. So she's won both of her women's titles on Monday Night Raw. It was a great match. I went back and watched it. And what a moment for Sasha. I mean, the crowd was going nuts. It was a wonderful moment, especially for the women's division main eventing a Raw like that for the title and seeing a title change. I think they couldn't have picked a better way to close out Monday Night Raw. I wish more Raws could be like this. So definitely an awesome match last week. Really happy for Sasha. A little bit surprising, I guess. I mean, both times that she's won the title, I don't think we really expected it. We thought WWE was going to wait until SummerSlam to give her the title, but instead they took it off of her at SummerSlam, and then she's won 2 women's titles on Monday Night Raw in unexpected fashion pretty much both times. So Sasha opens up the show this week. Her promo was okay. I mean, it was a lot about the little kids and looking up to women, and I hope I can be a role model, and I worked hard, and I give 110%, and all that stuff. The segment did get a little bit weird, though, which I'll talk about in a minute, but before the weirdness started, Sasha came right out and challenged Charlotte, and she wants the match to be inside at Hell in the Cell. So the women are about to make some more history, and for the first time ever, 2 of them are going to be locked inside the cell, and I think that's great. I mean, I've talked about a potential Hell in the Cell match between the women before. I think I've had the question on a recent Q&A even, and I wasn't sure if they could, you know, if they could really make it believable because the WWE's no blood ban and all this stuff. So I'm sure the girls will work their asses off in there, but as far as the cell being a structure of pain, you know, I don't think you're going to see both of these girls bleed from ear to ear. However, it would be nice to see, since the women are making so much history doing main events and Hell in the Cell matches, and, you know, they might even get a Royal Rumble in the future or a Money in the Bank or something like that, even a ladder match if they haven't done that yet already. Why not have these girls juice? WWE clearly is allowed to have blood sometimes. We've seen that. So what if Charlotte just gets completely split open just like her father? What if she blades like Daddy and bleeds like a stuck pig and gets defeated by Sasha Banks, and Sasha stands tall holding the women's belt up with Charlotte's blood all over her body? I think that would be fucking awesome. Chances of that happening, pretty slim, but I do think the girls are going to put on a hell of a show in that cell. And Charlotte's so athletic. You saw that big moonsault she did off the top rope, and now she's added a twist or a corkscrew type of deal into it, and she's been executing that. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Charlotte do something spectacular in that cell match. Now, where the segment got weird was after Charlotte showed up. She came out there and I guess basically accepted the challenge. But then Rusev, right before the girls started really getting cooking in their promo, Rusev out of nowhere shows up, and you're thinking, what the hell is he doing out there? He comes down there with Lana, and he tries to cut a promo, and Charlotte shuts him right up. She chews him out and yells at him. Lana then starts screaming at both Charlotte and Sasha, and they basically tell her to fuck off. And I think when Rusev's checking on Lana or something, Sasha and Charlotte actually hit him with a double dropkick and send him flying outside of the ring. And then Roman Reigns comes out and runs off Rusev, and he retreats. And at the time, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here? Why are Rusev and Roman Reigns interrupting this women's segment right after Charlotte and Sasha had, the match of a lifetime last week in the main event of Raw? They're out here to open the show, and they interrupt, and they combine a Rusev and Roman Reigns segment with it. It made no sense to me. I mean, the show is 3 fucking hours long. They have plenty of time to have a separate Rusev and Roman Reigns segment. I didn't see the point in combining everything. But then it made a little bit more sense when it wound up, leading to the mixed tag match that was going to be on Raw later that night. Mick Foley and Stephanie were out in the ring later on to cut a promo, and what in the world was up with Mick Foley's outfit? Holy shit. He looked fucking ridiculous in that flannel suit or whatever. William Regal sent out a hilarious tweet during Monday Night Raw, too, where he called himself the best-dressed GM in the entire WWE. The other 2 GMs, even if they spent $1 million, would still look homeless, he said, which was pretty funny. Stephanie's out there with him. That is where they formally announce that the Hell in the Cell match between Sasha and Charlotte will be a done deal and will take place at Hell in the Cell. They also announced that Seth Rollins will get a title shot against Kevin Owens in the Hell in the Cell as well. And that prompts Jericho and Kevin Owens to come out. Jericho is out there with the scarf and the list of Jericho. Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon both get their names on the list. So that really sucks for them. However, Stephanie got her name crossed off because she decides that because of what we saw last week on Monday Night Raw, that Chris Jericho would face Seth Rollins in the main event in a one-on-one match. And to sweeten the deal, if Jericho is able to score a victory over Seth Rollins, he will be inserted into the championship match at Hell in the Cell, and it would become a triple threat, and you could have the best friends having to collide for the title. I was really hoping Jericho would lose. I didn't really want to see him in the title match at Hell in the Cell. I thought it was pointless. I think the issue is between Rollins and Owens, and then they can eventually do a split between Jericho and Owens. You can already see that happening. Owens left Jericho high and dry the week before, and then he did it again here on Monday Night Raw to close the show. So sooner or later, Jericho and Owens are going to have to split, and you have to wonder if Jericho's going to play any sort of a role in Kevin Owens retaining or losing that belt in the future. I would not be surprised. I really hope that Kevin Owens' reign lasts a little longer. I really want to see him go into next year. I would like to see AJ and Owens both be champions going into 2017 and maybe even leading up to WrestleMania. I think at least one of the two of them needs to hold that belt until WrestleMania and drop it. I don't really care who at this point. I mean, it would be nice if it was both of them, but that might be a little bit too much to ask for. So hopefully just one guy can have a long enough run where when he finally drops it, it will be at WrestleMania. It could be AJ dropping it to Cena, or it could be Kevin Owens dropping it to, hell, I don't know, Brock or Finn Balor even. Probably Finn Balor would be a more likely option there. So if they can do something with one of the two of those guys and hold them off for a big match at Mania, that's what I'm hoping. I don't want to see both these guys drop the belt in the next month or two. If I had to guess right now, I think maybe Jericho and Owens just get really creative, and Jericho figures out a way to interfere in the Hell in the Cell match. He gets in there somehow. He does something to help Kevin Owens retain the title, because I want to see Seth Rollins win the Universal belt. I actually hope that he does at some point. Maybe even him and Kevin Owens can trade it back and forth until we get to WrestleMania, and one of the two of them can defend that belt against Finn Balor at WrestleMania. So maybe Seth can chase him for a little while longer and wind up losing at Hell in the Cell, because Seth is kind of new to this babyface thing, and maybe give him a little bit more time before you wrap the belt around his waist again. So I think my extremely early prediction right now for the Hell in the Cell match for the Universal title, I would have to say Owens will retain, but I might change that as we go through TV here in the next couple of weeks. Now that we've talked about the two major titles on Monday Night Raw, I guess we can give Goldberg a little bit of time. It's a done deal. He's coming back. Him and Brock Lesnar are going to have a match. They really timed this well, I think, with the release of WWE 2K17 A lot of you have been asking me if I'm going to get the game or play the game. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I am not a video gamer. I am a retro video gamer. I love Nintendo and Atari and Sega Genesis. I have all of those consoles. I have a ton of games, but I've never played anything modern. I don't know anything about PlayStations or Xboxes or anything like that. So all these crazy WWE games, these interactive games, these create a wrestler and build your rosters and all this shit, it is completely and totally over my head. I know absolutely nothing about it. I know these games are awesome. If you're into video games and you're a big gamer, I know these games are really well done because the fans go nuts over them. But I just never got into video games, and it's a shame, because if I did, I would probably do Let's Plays and shit like that for all of you, which I might actually do in the future. I actually might even pop in some NES games and play them and capture footage and, do a Let's Play type of deal, maybe on my second channel in the future. I've actually been thinking about doing that, because I do have a lot of retro wrestling games that I could do. And even some other games even, who knows. But that's another discussion for another time. The Goldberg thing, I think, was timed with the release of WWE 2K17. He was on ESPN, I think, last week. I don't know, it was Thursday or maybe it was Sunday. I can't remember what day it was. But he did an interview with Jonathan Coachman talking about the game, and then they outright asked him if he's going to come back to the WWE. And he says he hasn't really talked to Vince McMahon, but you can see the writing on the wall all the way back to when he was in that commercial and they did the big media event for the game. You know, you could tell that Goldberg was going to be coming back. And I thought he was going to be coming back next year for a big match at WrestleMania or something like that, but he's going to be coming back a lot earlier than that. And it looks like they are going to book the Goldberg-Brock Lesnar match for Survivor Series, so this is happening extremely early. I had recently mentioned that I thought this match would be better suited for a big show like a WrestleMania or like a Royal Rumble, because the Royal Rumble is going back to the Alamo Dome 20 years after they were there the last time in San Antonio, and they plan to have, 60,000 people, something like that, in that arena for that show. So you would think you would have to have a big-time attraction match, and I think holding Goldberg and Brock off until the Royal Rumble would be the best way to do it, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like it's going to happen much earlier than that. It's going to happen at Survivor Series, which I guess in a way is fitting. I mean, it is the 30th annual Survivor Series, so it's a milestone, so they want to have a big match for that too, I suppose. Paul Heyman came out on Raw to cut a promo. Brock Lesnar was not there, and he came out to address Bill Goldberg, talking about Brock Lesnar and a potential match between the two. And he basically called Goldberg crazy for thinking that he stands a chance against Brock Lesnar. He is the one blemish on Brock Lesnar's WWE career. Goldberg, of course, beat him at WrestleMania 20 when they were both leaving the company in one of the worst WrestleMania matches we've ever seen. And that's when these guys were in their prime, arguably. Here it is now 12, 13 years later. And it's insane to think that these guys can have any better of a match than they did before. Goldberg is like 50 years old now. Brock is, just an unstoppable monster. I don't know how good this match is going to be. I don't know if I'm really looking forward to the in-ring work. I'm just looking forward to seeing Goldberg again, seeing this big confrontation between these two. But for anybody out there, it doesn't matter that Goldberg beat Brock at WrestleMania 20. Anybody out there, if you're looking at this thing legit, who in the world thinks that Goldberg would have any chance in hell of defeating Brock Lesnar? So part of me is very happy that Goldberg is able to come back for one more match, but I was never really a fan of his to begin with, all the way back 20 years ago when he debuted. And incidentally, the most recent This Day in History that I did a few weeks back from September 22nd, I did that day for 96 and 1997 with the Mind Games pay-per-view and the big Monday Night Raw from MSG. That was also the same day of Goldberg's debut in WCW on Nitro when he beat Hugh Morris. So I think I regret not bringing that up in that video, but 20 years after Goldberg debuted, he's coming back for a match of this magnitude. I just don't know how it's going to come off and how it's going to look. I don't know what Goldberg's going to look physically. I mean, I know he's kept himself in good shape, but when you're pushing 50 years old, your body can only be in so good a shape. So he's going to go in there against this monster, and I don't see how he's going to stand a chance. And I'm curious about the contract negotiations of all this. I mean, would Bill Goldberg come back into the WWE and sign up for a match that he's going to have to lose? Don't you think one of his conditions for coming back is that whoever I face, I want to beat? You would think Goldberg would want that for his legacy, but maybe money is more important to Bill Goldberg. Maybe WWE says, all right, we're going to pay you a shit ton of money. All you got to do is go out there and lose to Brock Lesnar. We want to erase this blemish on his career. If Brock did not go to the NFL, if Brock was not leaving WWE to go to the Minnesota Vikings, I have no doubt in the world that he would have destroyed Bill Goldberg at WrestleMania 20, because Goldberg was going to leave. But after Brock kind of left him high and dry, I think it left WWE pissed off, and they were like, you know what, fuck it, we're going to put Goldberg over, because at least we know there's a chance we could get him back here in a year or two, where Brock looks like he's going to be gone forever. So I almost think it's WWE's way of wanting to right one of their own wrongs. That they put Goldberg over just out of spite on Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar was bigger, stronger, and a better wrestler than Goldberg was even back in 2004. I mean, Goldberg was so believable and so indestructible during his run in WCW. There was nobody in wrestling that you could think of that physically looked like they could take the guy until Brock Lesnar came along. Then it was like, wow, this guy's legit. He's not over just because he looks like Stone Cold. He's not dangerous or green or inexperienced or botchy. He is smooth, and he knows what he's doing, and he's a hell of an athlete, and he was just an overall better wrestler, athlete, everything than Bill Goldberg. And I was always disappointed that Goldberg beat him. And but at the same time, I mean, I don't know if I want to see Brock get his win back now. I mean, Goldberg is 50 years old. For Brock to beat Goldberg after he's destroyed all the people that he's destroyed, he's killed John Cena in one of the most one-sided squashes we've ever seen in WWE title match history. He's defeated Randy Orton. He's ended the Undertaker streak. He even went back to the UFC to win a match. You know, for me to think that beating Bill Goldberg would be some sort of a surprise is ludicrous. He should beat Bill Goldberg, and he probably will. So, to me, it's not this epic match of, oh my gosh, who's going to win? The only thing that's making me wonder who's going to go over is what the internal negotiations are. You know, is Bill Goldberg just going to accept a giant payday to go out there and job? Or is Bill Goldberg going to come back for maybe more matches? Maybe he's going to come back for more than just one. I mean, if he comes back at Survivor Series and you have the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania on the horizon, how are you not going to involve Bill Goldberg in those shows as well? So if he comes back to sign a deal, I would think maybe it would be a 1-year deal or maybe a 3 or 4 match deal, something like that, just one final run in the company. Not just a one-off, not just one match, lose to Brock, and then leave. I think they got to take advantage of having Goldberg back in the fold, put him in the Rumble, put him at WrestleMania in some sort of a match, which makes me think that some sort of finish or some sort of goofy-ass finish could take place at Survivor Series. Maybe we see a draw. Maybe we see Paul Heyman turn on Brock Lesnar and Goldberg gets the win, and then Brock ends up getting a rematch later on at the Rumble and beating him there. Maybe somebody makes their presence known in the match, and after Brock beats Goldberg, Goldberg can move on and feud with that person. All in all, on one hand, I'm happy that we're seeing yet another guy come back to the WWE that we never thought we would see in WWE again. Things did not work out well with him last time. He's had a ton of heat throughout his life and career with Triple H. He never really got along or respected Vince McMahon at all, or anything the WWE did, really. And he's trashed him a lot in interviews over the last 12 years. So for Triple H to broker this deal and to kind of bury the hatchet with Goldberg, Triple H is clearly taking on a different role. And he's putting his ego aside and getting these guys back. He got Bruno back, he got the Ultimate Warrior back, and now he got Goldberg back in. I mean, if Randy Savage was alive, you would think Triple H would bring him back into the fold too, whether or not he fucked his wife or not. So Triple H, surprisingly, seems to be the voice of reason in the WWE and the calmer head, and guys are much more likely to do business with him than just Vince McMahon outright. So I'm curious. I would love to be a fly on the wall during these negotiations and find out what the terms are, what Bill is getting paid, what they have planned for him creatively, because you know he's not going to come in and sign on the dotted line unless he knows ahead of time what he's going to be doing. So hopefully WWE has outlined something for this guy creatively that has made him say, okay, that's going to be a lot of fun to do. Let's do it. Maybe I can have a match with Brock and maybe Kurt Angle interferes or something like that. There's a whole bunch of guys that they can bring back, especially with this giant Survivor Series show that is most likely going to have Brock Lesnar and Bill Goldberg. There's still a chance they could hold it off to the Rumble, but most likely it's going to be Survivor Series. Rumble will be in the Alamo Dome, Shawn Michaels' hometown. He's going to have a presence on this thing, maybe a cameo in the Royal Rumble. I heard Solomonster on his podcast this past week pitch a Shawn Michaels AJ Styles match for the WWE title. That would be fucking amazing. So if Shawn Michaels was able to have some sort of a presence at the Royal Rumble, that would help. I think Kurt Angle should definitely come back and make some sort of an appearance between now and WrestleMania, and the Royal Rumble would be a perfect time for that. We've got the potential for a lot of good shit here in the next 6 or 7 months leading up to WrestleMania, and we sure as shit better have a better WrestleMania 33 than we had at WrestleMania 32. So we will monitor this situation as we go forward. Next Monday night on Raw, Bill Goldberg will be there right after Paul Heyman cut his promo on Raw. Goldberg tweeted out that he is buying his plane ticket and he will be at Monday Night Raw to answer the challenge of Paul Heyman. I'm not sure at this point if Brock is going to be there or not. I don't think so. I think they should hold him off. I mean, we haven't even had Hell in the Cell yet, so you got plenty of time to have these guys on the same show at the same time. So maybe next week Goldberg comes out and accepts the challenge, and then right after Hell in the Cell you can have the one-on-one confrontation between the two, the contract signing, any of that other shit you need to have. You can build that as we move forward to Survivor Series. So the general consensus from what I can tell is a lot of people feel the way I do, and that Brock Lesnar and Bill Goldberg is not that intriguing. But to me, just to have a guy that hasn't been in the WWE in 12 years, and even when he was there, he was only there a year, and he's such a big iconic name, for him to come back and have one final match, just one final send-off, I think would be really nice. And plus, you know, Goldberg can be put into the Hall of Fame now, possibly at the next WrestleMania, maybe WrestleMania 34 or 35 or something like that. I'm sure they can do a DVD, a documentary, a ton of WWE Network specials on this guy, and it can translate into a lot of dollars for WWE. So the Goldberg and Brock Lesnar thing is a go. I'm surprised that it came this quick, and it should be interesting to see how they build this up on television from here. So I'm excited or interested to hear all of your opinions on this mess as well. As far as what else happened on Monday Night Raw, I'll kind of blow through some of the other stuff here. Kofi Kingston beat Cesaro with a roll-up. Now, Cesaro and Sheamus, of course, have been teamed up together, forced to team up by Mick Foley, and they're going to be getting a tag team title shot in the future. The New Day, I guess, is finished with Gallows and Anderson after they beat him again at the last pay-per-view or whatever. So now they're going for Demolition's record, which there is not much time left. I don't know what the count is up to now. I don't know how many days it's been or how many days are left. But at this point, it looks like they're going to beat Demolition's record. I mean, I can't see WWE taking the belts off of them now after they've held it for so long. So New Day will continue to hold those belts, and I guess Cesaro and Sheamus will probably be the ones to take the belts off of them. Right now, of course, they're not getting along. Sheamus was even Facebooking on the ring steps during Cesaro's match, refusing to watch Cesaro wrestle. I actually tweeted Sheamus, and he liked my tweet when he was sitting there on the ring steps, which was cool. I said something along the lines of, "Don't act like you don't see my friend request, Sheamus," or whatever. So he sat there and just fucked around on his phone. Eventually got into an altercation with Xavier Woods and Big E on the outside of the ring, caused just enough of a distraction for Cesaro to get rolled up and pinned, and Sheamus just walks away and calls him a loser or whatever. So they're not getting along. Eventually, you know these guys are going to become BFFs. You can just see it happening. They're eventually going to come together. They're going to have a couple of tag matches. They're going to win as a unit, and they're going to get more familiar with each other. They're going to warm up to each other, and sooner or later, I think they're going to be an unstoppable team. I hope they are. A little bit of their heat reminds me just slightly of Owen Hart and the British Bulldog when they had a little bit of tension. And a few of the disagreements that they had were more like they were just annoyed with each other. They really weren't going to come to blows over it. So I think we're going to see that slow transition to where Cesaro and Sheamus just start hating each other a little bit less and a little bit less, and they wind up defeating the New Day for the tag team titles. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I think this has a chance. I mean, I know some people have no interest in this storyline at all between Sheamus and Cesaro, but I'm willing to give it a chance. Neither of these two guys were doing anything in their singles runs on the roster currently. Cesaro has been looked over time and time again. So maybe, just maybe, they can get over in this tag team, in this new alliance that they have. So I'm rooting for it to succeed. Speaking of the tag team division, Gallows and Anderson was the team that I was hoping would beat the New Day for the tag team titles. It doesn't look like that's going to happen now. It looks like the New Day and Gallows and Anderson are pretty much done with each other. But Gallows and Anderson still had a presence on the show. Enzo and Cass came out to work a tag team match against Bo Dallas and Kurt Axel. And before the match even starts, Gallows and Anderson hit the ring, coming through the crowd the way they did on the first night when they got there, and just beat the holy hell out of Enzo and Cass. basically letting everybody know that they're not playing games anymore. It's back to basics. They're going to go back to being the ass-kicking machines that they were. But the problem is they haven't been in the WWE that long. They just got there, and they already lost their identity, and now they have to get it back. So they're back there to kick some ass, and they're not playing any games, and it's going to be no nonsense and no silly skits. These guys are going to go out there and beat people up, which is great. But, if they're going to be giving the next title shots to Cesaro and Sheamus, and potentially even the next title run to Cesaro and Sheamus, where does that leave Gallows and Anderson? As much as I want to see Sheamus and Cesaro succeed, I almost hope that they fail as a tag team and continue to feud with each other one-on-one, where Gallows and Anderson can sneak in the back door and knock off the New Day for the tag team titles. But it's looking unlikely at this point, and Gallows and Anderson's next feud looks like it will be with Enzo and Cass. Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas did end up getting a match. They stayed out there throughout the commercial break, and when they came back, they demanded to face another team. Sami Zayn and Neville came out and wound up beating them in a tag team match. Bo Dallas walked off after Curtis Axel was pinned, and I had predicted that Bo was probably going to turn on Kurt Axel anyway on this past Raw, because Bo has been kicking everybody's ass. He's been super aggressive, and I could easily see him just turning on and kicking the hell out of Curtis Axel to kind of further that Bo means business type of deal that they're doing. Let's see, what else happened on Raw? Bayley won an enhancement match, and so did Braun Strowman. He won a handicap match against two crazy-looking guys. One of them looked like a black Tyler Breeze, but after Strowman squashed them, he gets on the mic and he calls out Mick Foley. He's been demanding more competition. This sounds familiar. Fucking Ryback all over again. And he says, "This is what you call competition, just giving me two schmucks to destroy? You better give me some competition soon, or I'm going to wind up destroying your whole roster." So who's going to be the guy that's finally going to take him on? I was thinking to myself, maybe Brock. I mean, that would completely kill the momentum of Strowman. Not that I care about Strowman. This whole thing is weird, and he's got a weird character, and his theme music and that big growl at the beginning is fucking stupid. But what if Brock came out just to make an example of Braun Strowman? Oh yeah, Goldberg, you want a piece of me? Take a look at what I did to this guy just now. But I think the more likely scenario is not Brock Lesnar, but probably the Big Show. I mean, the Big Show or Mark Henry. Those two guys really haven't been doing much. They're big, they're powerful guys. They can match size with Braun Strowman. So Foley, I guess, next week or very, very soon, will be sending one of those two guys out to face Braun Strowman, and he will defeat them. We had a couple of cruiserweight matches. We had a tag team match between Drew Gulak and Tony Nese taking on Dorado and Sin Cara, who has announced that he's going to be a part of the cruiserweight division now. So they're putting a familiar face in the cruiserweight division, which is fine. I think Kalisto would be a much better addition to the cruiserweight roster than Sin Cara, but I can understand why WWE wants to put some familiar faces in that division for the casual fan. And Sin Cara's team wound up winning, and we'll have to see where it goes from here with Sin Cara. The other cruiserweight match, we had TJ Perkins defeating Daivari. Brian Kendrick was on commentary. They even did a backstage segment between Kendrick and TJ. TJ cut a pretty good promo. A lot of people were sickened by his constant video game references, but I thought all WWE fans were video game fans. Why would they even have a problem with that? Everybody goes video game nuts in this fucking world. I can't believe they would have a problem with him being all video gamey. I guess he just said one too many references that just annoyed the fans, but I was thinking that his delivery was not bad, the way he was talking to Kendrick. Now granted, this could have all been a pre-tape, and it probably was, and he probably had multiple tries to get this right, but I think the kid can talk okay. So I'm not ready to abandon TJ Perkins yet. I think the guy's good, and I have no problem with him, and I'm rooting for his title run to be successful. I guess he's going to wind up getting a match with Kendrick. Is that taking place at Hell in the Cell? It probably is. I wouldn't be opposed to giving Kendrick the belt at this point. I mean, why not? I mean, the cruiserweight division needs to be different, and having title changes be more frequent in the cruiserweight division. Not that they're not frequent enough on the main roster, but maybe making the title changes a little bit more frequent, I think would be fine. And if Kendrick and TJ exchange the titles a couple of times, I mean, they've been talking about how Kendrick isn't going to get many more opportunities. He's already in his late 30s. Every time he fails at a championship opportunity, it could be his last chance to do anything in the WWE. So if Kendrick winds up beating TJ for the belt and then TJ wins it back at the next pay-per-view, I am completely fine with that, and I actually hope that happens. Oh yeah, the mixed tag team match. I never even talked about that, did I? When I talked about the opening segment there with Sasha and Charlotte and Rusev and Reigns. Sasha and Reigns did defeat Rusev and Charlotte. Charlotte tapped out again to the bank statement, and the match was what it was. It was fine. It was a decent finish, and I really don't have a whole lot to say about it. The only other match I have written down is R-Truth took on Titus O'Neil. He beat Titus with a roll-up, basically a throwaway match there, and they've been running promos for Emma, who is now transformed into this, I don't know, this Emmeline, where she's a little bit more sexy and has a different, she's more of a girly girl type of gimmick to her, which I don't like. What was wrong with the previous Emma? I mean, when she was kind of the awkward, funky, dancing chick, I liked that. And then her more recent gimmick, before she got injured, I was fine with that. I've always thought Emma was a good talent and charismatic and could talk okay. I don't see any need or any reason to repackage her at all. So I think there's too many of these supermodel bikini type chicks in WWE anyway. I mean, it's a little bit better now because the girls are much better wrestlers than they were, 5-10 years ago. But Emma is not the type of girl I think that needs this gimmick. This can be for Nikki or Eva or Carmella even. I'm not sure how I feel about this whole repackaging of Emma, but we'll have to see. I mean, I'm glad she's getting back on TV. I'm glad that she's coming back. I've always been an Emma fan. But to me, this whole thing just seems unnecessary. But who knows? Maybe she'll make it work. She's made everything else work. It's just been bad luck for her when she got busted stealing that iPad or whatever, and then, her getting injured most recently. She's had a few speed bumps along the way, but so far, aside from that, she's proven that she can make just about anything work, and I'm sure she'll do fine with this as well, and I hope that it's a success. I mean, hell, I'm not complaining about seeing her in bikinis and stuff. I think she's gorgeous, but, just that type of gimmick was not something that I saw her doing. And before we move on to SmackDown here, one final note on Raw. Seth Rollins, backstage promo, did you guys catch that? And he said obsolete. And he said it very clearly and very loudly, and the fans popped for it, and they even started a delete chant. And I think the way that the line was written for Seth, I don't think it was an accident. I don't think they just threw the word obsolete in there and didn't think it through. I think they 100% meant for this to be a test. They wanted to see if the crowd would react, and they did. I have fucking no doubt about it in my mind. WWE has been thinking about purchasing TNA and buying their tape library. There's been rumors that they might be interested in Matt Hardy and bringing that whole crazy-ass gimmick that he has under the WWE umbrella, as Matt would call it, on Meek Man's show. And I don't know if Meek Man could make this any more entertaining than Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy currently are, because they pretty much have full creative control with this, and a lot of this shit is their idea, and, they're not so restricted. And if WWE gets their hands on this shit, they're gonna fucking ruin it. They're gonna ruin it so bad. I mean, this is one thing that I truly think TNA can do better than WWE. They can do all this crazy shit better than them, because WWE is just gonna WWEize it, and it's gonna fuck it all up. So Matt, stay in TNA as far as I'm concerned. As long as TNA can stay in fucking business, stay there and keep doing your thing, and don't even worry about the WWE. But I have a hard time believing that WWE did not do that on purpose, and it wasn't a deliberate attempt to gauge the fans and the audience reaction to anything Matt Hardy related. And as soon as Seth said obsolete, the fans started chanting their asses off. So pretty cool. Also, it should be noted as well, because she is a Raw roster member, Paige has been suspended again by WWE. You know what? They are just pissed off at her. I'm flat out convinced. She is now suspended for 60 days. Paige, who has just finished up the first one, is now suspended again. She did tweet about it, and basically she's pissed. She called out the WWE. She goes, the tests are done based on, the punishments are done based on your status. She claims she has a doctor's note or something, but she just did something that's against the rules. The first time, I guess she wasn't home for a drug test, and technically that counts as a violation. So even though she didn't test positive for anything, it was a procedural issue, and she got nailed with a violation, and now she got one again. So it's very possible that she's taking some pills and doing some things that she's not supposed to. But with her involvement in Del Rio, who was recently stabbed, by the way, Jesus, did you see that? He was attacked somewhere in Texas and stabbed on his arm and on his head and shit. So I don't know what the hell is going on with these two, but Paige seems like she is in the wrong place at the wrong time a lot since she's been dating Del Rio. And I like Del Rio. I'm a big Alberto Del Rio fan. I think he's great. I'm glad that he left the WWE. His personal life is his business. He probably did cheat on his wife with Paige or whatever, and they're a couple now. But why WWE would try to control somebody else's life is what makes me the most mad. I mean, we heard the stories that they were just pissed that the two of them were dating, and they threatened firing Paige and doing all this. They were clearly uncomfortable with them dating. And actually, ironically, just to update everybody on the situation, I'm reading right now that WWE did make a statement, and they did fire back at her and say that she did, in fact, test positive for an illegal substance. It was not prescription pills, according to WWE. Now, I know that Paige is young. She's impressionable. She's probably making a lot of stupid decisions right now. You know, she had a great career, has a great career in the WWE. She's a top women's wrestler, a top contender, making a lot of money. But she's also young, and when you're young, you make dumb decisions. And she's currently making some dumb decisions right now. She's taking a few drugs. She's dating somebody that Mama and Daddy WWE don't approve of. She's just being rebellious, because at the end of the day, Paige is a kid. She is a fucking child. So I think it's just going to take her some time to get her shit together. I think they should just outright release her, let her go, let her be with Del Rio, let that relationship run its course, because it's not like these two are going to get married and be together forever. They'll be broken up within months or a year from now, maximum. You watch. So just let her go off and do that. Let her experience that relationship. Let it end the way it needs to end, and let her come back to the WWE with her tail between her legs and say, okay, I'm ready to get back to business. I'm ready to work again, and I want to focus back on my career now that I'm scarred by a relationship. So that's probably the cycle that's going to happen with Paige, and I just think WWE should be more patient with her. So we'll have to see what the future holds for Paige when these 60 days are up. If she comes back, when she comes back, and how she's going to be treated on TV when she does. So anyway, that's that. Moving on to SmackDown now. I was not home to see the show live, so I had to catch the replay here extremely late on Tuesday night. This was the post No Mercy SmackDown. And speaking of No Mercy, by the way, I did not mention this in my No Mercy review. I just put something briefly up on the screen about it. Thank you very much to the fan that brought the GoodMicWork sign. I have been waiting forever for a GoodMicWork sign to make it onto TV. Some of you email me, Facebook, and tweet me saying, hey, I'm going to a show, I'm going to take a GoodMicWork sign, and I've never seen one. I see signs for everybody else, every podcaster, every YouTuber out there that has some sort of success gets signs on TV all the time, and I've never been able to see one for myself. So finally, on No Mercy, I got one on TV. It was right behind the Spanish announce desk in the NWO font. Very cool. So thank you again to the fan that brought the sign. And let's make that a regular thing. Take your GoodMicWork signs to pay-per-views and Raws. I will definitely shout you out and show you some love for doing that. I thought it was really cool. So I don't know what the hell took so long, but still very cool to see it nonetheless. Dolph Ziggler opened up SmackDown and came out to celebrate his Intercontinental title victory and him saving his job on the SmackDown roster. Cuts a small little promo until he's interrupted by The Miz, who comes out and asks the fans to bow their heads and observe a moment of silence and wants to mourn the loss of the Intercontinental title, which was kind of funny. Dolph then shows a replay on the screen of the loss and makes fun of The Miz for crying and all that crap. The Spirit Squad comes out there. I believe it's Kenny and Mikey who have made their returns. They announced that they've been booked in a handicap match 2-on-1 to take on Dolph Ziggler. That match happened right away. The Miz and Maurice stayed at ringside to watch this thing. Dolph Ziggler, of course, wound up winning. He nailed Kenny with the super kick and pinned him. The Miz then jumped Dolph Ziggler after the match and hit him with the skull-crushing finale and all of that. But I gotta wonder if this might result in possibly a contract for something like Kenny. I don't know what Kenny and Mikey have signed up to do. Probably just a by-appearance type of deal. But I remember back when the Spirit Squad was around in 2006, it seemed like the WWE was really high on Kenny. I always thought facially he resembles Owen Hart, but I think he was drawing a lot of comparisons physically at the time and in ring work at the time to like a Randy Orton, somebody who's very young and very athletic and very gifted. I don't know. I don't remember what the story was with him, why it didn't work out for him. I know he got released or something like that. Maybe he had behavior problems or attitude problems. But now that it's 10 years later, he's probably matured a lot. He still looks great. He looks to be in great shape. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they sign this guy to some sort of a contract, if they have not yet already. Daniel Bryan and Shane then have a backstage segment where they start setting the table for Survivor Series. They outright challenge Raw to 3 traditional Survivor Series matches. A 5-on-5 men's match, a 5-on-5 women's match, and a 5-on-5 tag team match. Now, what was interesting is when they were talking about this, Daniel Bryan's like, we had this great idea. How about we do a tag team match too? And we will take 5 of our best tag teams against 5 of Raw's best tag teams. Well, I think each roster only has 5. I mean, do these rosters have any more than 5 tag teams on either one? So it's not like it's the 5 best. It's fucking all of them. It's all of our tag teams versus all of your tag teams. Same goes with the women. Hopefully it will turn out to be good, because Survivor Series has really sucked in recent years. So hopefully we can get a good one for the 30th show. Fingers crossed. So the table is kind of set there. We know we're probably getting Brock and Goldberg, and we're going to get at least 3 traditional Survivor Series matches as well. As far as what else happened on SmackDown, we had Naomi beating Carmella with a little bit of help from Nikki Bella, who came out and distracted her. Jimmy Uso beat Chad Gable with a little help from Jay, who gave his brother a little bit of help there, a little bit of extra leverage on the roll-up or whatever it was. We had AJ Styles come out for his big victory speech as well, bragging about how he beat John Cena and Dean Ambrose in the same night. And I put him over huge in my No Mercy review, but you know what? I gotta do it again. I am so happy with the work of AJ Styles. I like this guy so much. I'm starting not to even hate his hair anymore. I'm starting to get used to that. I think the guy looks good, he carries himself well, and he wears that belt like a champion. He has fit so much better into the WWE than I thought he would, and he's a main player, man. I hope his title run lasts forever. He's on top of the world, he's bragging his ass off and says that he's going to give somebody an opportunity, because that's what SmackDown is all about, opportunity. So tonight somebody's going to get a chance to face him in a match. Dean Ambrose ends up coming out when AJ says, send my opponent down to the ring. Ambrose comes down there, and AJ says, no, fuck off. You're not the guy I'm talking about. The guy I'm talking about isn't even on the roster, and that's James Ellsworth. So James Ellsworth comes out there, gets in the ring. AJ puts his arm around him and says, you're going to get an opportunity to face me, and blah, blah, blah. And then Dean Ambrose gets on the mic, and he's like, you know what? Fine, I'd actually like to see this myself, and I'm going to sit at ringside and watch this thing. And AJ freaks out, saying, no way, you can't be at ringside for this, you're going to interfere. Daniel Bryan finally makes his way out to the ramp to make sense of all of it and says, hey, this sounds like a great idea, but I'm the matchmaker around here, not you, so this match between Ellsworth and AJ will take place, and Dean Ambrose will be the special referee. So they have the match. Dean Ambrose is being an asshole to AJ throughout the whole thing, finally just hits AJ with the dirty deeds, and puts Ellsworth on top of AJ, and goes to count 3, and AJ kicks out. So Dean just kind of regroups, goes out to the front row and has a soda and thinks about it, gets right back in the ring and nails AJ with the dirty deeds again, throws Ellsworth on top and hits him with a fast 3 count. And in the record books, James Ellsworth holds a victory over WWE Champion AJ Styles. Pretty funny segment. I really have no problem with it. That little Ellsworth guy, he's the other guy that did the same thing like 10 years ago, Colin Delaney. Reminds me of somebody like him, or Zach Gowen even. The guy looks so weak and so pathetic that he's actually getting an opportunity because of that, and that's awesome. That's why I love pro wrestling. AJ ends up confronting Daniel Bryan and Shane backstage after this too, getting all pissed off and bent out of shape, and they were like, hey, too bad, you lost. You're the one that asked for the match, so, you know, what are you bitching to us about? And then Daniel Bryan makes some offhanded comment to Shane that he has an idea for James Ellsworth next week. So they're using James Ellsworth, and he's getting a lot of TV time. Good for him. The main event was a tag team match between Randy Orton and Kane taking on Bray Wyatt and the recently returned Luke Harper. Kind of strange to see Orton and Kane on the same side. You know, the match was about what we would expect, and Bray Wyatt plays some tricks again, and right when Randy Orton is going to give Kane the hot tag, the lights go out, the lights come back on, and Kane has completely disappeared, and standing in his place is Luke Harper. Randy Orton's just like, what the fuck? And Bray Wyatt's able to come from behind Randy Orton and nail him with a very sloppy Sister Abigail. Did not look very good, but ended up pinning Orton and scoring the victory. So Bray Wyatt pins Randy Orton again. I'm wondering where the blow-off is going to be. I mean, if these two guys, they might be involved in one of these Survivor Series matches, or they could have some sort of a match against each other in a gimmick type of thing in a cage or whatever at Survivor Series. But eventually you know that Randy Orton is going to have to get his revenge on Bray Wyatt sometime in the future. So SmackDown now has a lot of time to build for Survivor Series. I would imagine that at least for the 5-on-5 men's match at Survivor Series, they might do some qualifying matches or something like that. Hopefully, since we have so many weeks before Survivor Series, we can get a title match or two. I would really like to see The Miz get his rematch, maybe on SmackDown, on a night that they want to get some good ratings, put a title match up. Maybe even AJ defends the WWE title between now and Survivor Series on TV as well. I don't know where this leaves John Cena either. He's a guy that I would bet would probably be in the 5-on-5 match going up against Raw. I guess he's off doing other projects right now, and he's not going to be on TV for a while, which is fine. hopefully he will stay away from the WWE title until WWE decides to put that belt on him a 16th and 17th time. It's making me wonder, too, if he's going to win the title at WrestleMania, because WWE might be thinking along the lines of, okay, John Cena's last big final run on top. He's going to tie Ric Flair's record, or he's going to break Ric Flair's record. They might want to give him the belt one more time. He could win it at WrestleMania, and maybe all of the losing that he's been doing now has been in preparation for him to win in the future, because the fans really don't like it when he wins. He's been getting some of the worst heat in the history of the business, and it's felt so nice that a lot of that is over, that ever since he got raped by Brock Lesnar a couple of years ago, that he really has not been in the title picture aside from a title shot or two here or there. So that's been really nice. So maybe with him putting over guys like Kevin Owens and AJ Styles in recent history, it'll make the pill a little bit easier to swallow if he does wind up winning the WWE title again, which I definitely think he will. I would like to see him maybe win it at the Royal Rumble and drop it at WrestleMania. I'm not sure if we want to see John Cena winning any world titles at WrestleMania, especially after what we saw last year with Roman Reigns, and especially if John Cena is in the main event, which he very well could be. Hopefully he will not be. And if John Cena does win a title at WrestleMania, hopefully it's in the middle of the card. So there is a lot to talk about and a lot to consider as it relates to John Cena in the future, now that we're getting closer and closer to 2017 and WrestleMania 33. But for right now, he's kind of out of the picture. Anyway, I guess right now AJ will continue his thing with Dean Ambrose, and I'm sure that will be the next title match. After that, like I said earlier, with Kevin Owens, I really want AJ and Owens both to have a really long title run, but especially AJ. I just really want that for him. So if he's able to wrap up business with Dean Ambrose and move forward, I'm curious who his opponent's going to be after that. So time will tell on all of that, and let's just keep our fingers crossed that the next 7 months between now and WrestleMania are going to be a really entertaining time. I hope they are. Raw has its problems. SmackDown has its problems. I'm not saying WWE is without issues, and TV ratings are really bad, and sometimes interest is just generally down, and sometimes the shows suck. But despite all of that, I still think we have some potential here. So let's just hope WWE handles everything properly and in a way that's going to please the fans as much as possible. So that pretty much wraps up what I'm going to say about Raw and SmackDown. The only other wrestling news I have written down is something that just came to my attention recently. I guess I'm going to have to watch this, even though I don't want to. But apparently Nancy Grace walked off the Sam Roberts podcast or something like that. She was being interviewed and got pissed when they were questioning her or giving her shit or whatever, and she walked out. I'll have to see what that's all about. I absolutely despise Nancy Grace. I mean, are we sure that Nancy Grace and Donald Trump aren't the same person? I mean, she is like the female version of him. She is a vile, repugnant human being. I mean, I despise her probably worse than anybody else in this world. I mean, she is just a piece of shit. I fucking hate her guts. And she got a lot of heat from wrestling fans when she did the piece on wrestlers or whatever and talking about them dying young. And, a lot of people get really upset when people throw in Owen Hart's name because it just shows how uninformed they are. When they start talking about wrestlers dying young, they just start reading lists of wrestlers that have died. They don't really care what they have died from. She is a truly evil human being, and I have absolutely no respect for her. So I hope Sam Roberts and company ripped her a new one, because she sure as shit deserves it. Fuck you, Nancy Grace. I think that is it for me tonight. I wanted to get a little bit more in-depth on Raw and SmackDown and talk for a little bit longer since I haven't been up here in a couple of weeks due to my move. Most likely next week what you can expect is probably a Raw review by itself. I mean, Goldberg is going to be coming back to the WWE for the first time in 12 years. I'm probably going to want to come up and talk about that. I don't want to guarantee it just in case something crazy happens that I'm not aware of or something comes up that's out of my control and I'm not able to do a review, but my plan is to come up after Raw with a few thoughts on the show and, of course, what we saw with Goldberg's return and what he talked about with Paul Heyman. I assume he's going to show up on Raw to accept the challenge. I wouldn't think he would show up on Raw to turn the challenge down, so obviously he's going to say yes. So we'll have to see if it gets physical. We'll have to see if Paul Heyman eats a spear. Who knows? Hopefully the segment will be interesting, and I'm going to try to come up here after Raw and talk about it. So you guys have a great rest of your week. Leave me all your comments about Raw, SmackDown, No Mercy, Hell in the Cell, Survivor Series, Bill Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, all that stuff. Let me have it in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it with all your friends, follow me on Twitter at GoodMicWork, like my Facebook page, check out my website, GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com, and check out this commentary on iTunes and Stitcher Radio if you would like to just listen to it. I will catch you this Monday after Monday Night Raw. Until then, peace.